If you're ready to feel like your best self, you have some room for improvement in your health, or you're looking to explore the infinite possibilities within wellness, then welcome to the Empire Wellness Podcast. Listen into your host and renowned wellness expert, Charlene Lawrence, as she shows you how to build your internal and external wellness empire. Charlene is a licensed acupuncturist, certified hypnotherapist, and master of traditional Chinese medicine. She'll introduce you to the solutions that have yet to be on your radar. Now here's your host, Charlene Lawrence.
Welcome back to the Empire Wellness Podcast. Today's episode, we're talking with Joe Ranieri, who works as a full-time software consultant with a degree in mechanical engineering. He has always had a strong passion for health and fitness, continuously seeking ways to optimize his well-being through smarter workouts and better sleep. After experimenting with various supplements to improve his sleep, Joe realized there was a gap in the market for a product that combined high doses of magnesium, L-theanine, and glycine. Seeing the growing interest in sleep-conscious solutions, he decided to seize the opportunity and create Sleepy Vibes, an all-natural sleep supplement designed to be mixed with water. All right, let's listen to the chat with Joe, and let's dive right in. All right, Joe, well, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And so we're just going to dive right in. I am curious, what does wellness mean to you?
Oh, good question. Wellness means to me um, feeling good and feeling good while you're going through your day. Um, Being able to, I guess, have some physical feats. So, for me, I lift a certain amount, run a certain amount, certain, key metrics that as I get older, I adjust accordingly. But it's mostly feeling good, both physically and mentally.
Awesome. I love that. Kind of the whole spectrum of feeling well.
Yes. Yeah, the whole spectrum.
Yeah. All right. So I know we are going to talk about your sleep supplement eventually when we kind of get into your story a little bit, but let's go ahead and kind of start at the beginning and just share your wellness journey and what took you to even needing finding the need for a better sleep aid out there.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess, to start in the beginning, the first time in my life where I started to really look at health at all was probably when I was in college, out of all stages in life. And it started in baby steps. Obviously, I guess what was considered a nutritious diet, 20 years ago was, meat, fruits, vegetables, bread, rice, pasta, things like that. And then in college, I started to gravitate towards more whole foods, less processed foods. And then around the end of college, right when I graduated, that's when I started to get involved and follow a more ketogenic diet, high fat, low carb. I did that for several years in stages. So first it was with bulletproof coffee, if you know what that is, coffee with butter and MCT oil. Then that transitioned into being like a strict ketogenic diet for 5 days a week. Usually weekends, I would relax with it a little bit. And then for a while, I was doing it 7 days a week for maybe a year or so. Um, and from there, the ketogenic diet, the one thing I noticed that to this day I would still say is a benefit of the ketogenic diet is the way you feel. You don't get the ups and downs that maybe you do eating a lot of carbs or a lot of processed foods. You never felt overly full, never felt overly hungry. So I thought that was really interesting. And, as I got older, I transitioned away from following that diet as strict as I did, 10 years ago. But I still consume a lot of healthy fats. I've incorporated, carbohydrates. I have found that when it comes to energy and performance when I work out, carbs help. And most recently it's been transitioning. I've actually been counting calories and macros, which I used to be against per se. I don't think it's the end all be all, but for someone like myself who up until a couple years ago would just eat until I wasn't hungry, I don't know if it's age or just maybe lifestyle changes, but that strategy wasn't working the way it used to. So I became more mindful of counting macros, and primarily protein intake and calories. And over the course of about a year, year and a half, I've slowly lost about, 10, 15 pounds. So I was never overweight per se, but, I gained maybe 10 or 20 pounds in a couple years. I wanted to lose it in a way that it was maintainable. So I wasn't trying to lose 10 pounds in 3 months or anything like that. But, over 18 months, losing 10, 15 pounds and slowly losing a pound every month or so. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. As far as nutrition, I could keep going with fitness, or if you have a question, you can ask.
Yeah, well, I guess really not so much of a question. It's just you're totally speaking my language because nutrition's one of my passions. And
Yeah.
it's fun to chat with, a young guy like you because so many of the people I talk with or my patients, they're women who are, perimenopause, close to menopause, and
Hmm.
kind of navigate this nutritional area is really challenging. But as you've kind of experienced, yes, you've had some shifts and changes that you've noticed in your body that you've needed to adjust. But
Hmm.
for men, it just tends to be so much easier that you can live on a ketogenic diet 100% of the time for a year stretch without damaging your body. And it's not that way for women. And I'm
Hmm.
always a proponent of 3 weeks on, 1 week off to kind of get that natural, like, female hormone cycle, but
Hmm.
men have way more stable hormones, so it tends to be a bit
Yeah.
easier. Um, yeah, talk to me about kind of your fitness progression in all those years, because I can see you look like a fit guy, and then we definitely wanna talk about how sleep kinda loops into this.
Sure. Yeah. So for fitness, for a while, I actually did Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and mixed martial arts. So probably for about 10 years, from let's say 2009 to 2018, 2019. In that time, I started to transition into more strength and conditioning. So before that, I was just, you go to the gym, you lift as heavy as you can, and you hope for the best. Then in mixed martial arts, I started to learn how to develop strength that wasn't as simple as just bench pressing or squatting. And then as I accumulated some injuries doing mixed martial arts, I realized it wasn't the best hobby from a longevity standpoint. So eventually transitioned away from it and focused more on strength and conditioning. And I've tried a couple different things, but right now I actually primarily do a combination of running. I have a Peloton bike, and then for strength training, I either do full body workouts, or I have like a band system that I do a workout where they're just really thick bands, and it's a very different way of working out. But I've been doing it for about 3 years, and I haven't lost any muscle mass, so that it's maintaining what I've had for the past couple years. So and it's easy, and I could do it right in this room if I wanted to. But when it comes to sleep, this is probably the newest avenue of health and longevity I've gotten into, and it probably started probably like 5 years ago. Um, I was listening to a podcast, and someone was on talking about sleep, and prior to that, you hear get 8 hours of sleep, and growing up, I probably was in the 6 to 7 hours of sleep range, but never really thought about it. I was just like, as long as I'm not tired, I'm good. And then I started listening to these podcasts about it's not just the amount of hours you sleep, it's the quality of sleep. And it's also, the things you do during your day have an effect on sleep. And I'm wearing an Aura ring. I've had that. Yeah. So I've had mine, I think since 2018. And, the first thing I learned from that, even before I really looked into sleep, was the things that affect your sleep that you don't actually feel. So like the easiest one is if you have 2 beers, like, on a Saturday, I won't be hungover. I'll feel normal the next day, but my app will be like every time, like your sleep is horrible, like something happened. So that somewhat obvious, but I used to, think that you had to feel hungover to feel the negative effects of alcohol. So, just inherently, I would say my drinking over the past, 5 years or so has gone significantly down. Just knowing every time I drink, I have to make the trade off of a bad night's sleep. Then there were some other ones that were a little less noticeable, like if you have a big meal, too soon from when you go to bed, same thing. Your heart rate stays elevated for most of the night, and the app will say, "Hey, something's wrong." Not something's wrong per se, but hey, like your metrics aren't the way they used to be. So yeah, over that, I started making some habitual changes. But then again, a couple years ago, I started learning about I guess, topics such as like magnesium deficiencies. So a lot of our food doesn't have the amount of magnesium that it did, let's say, 100 years ago. And because of that, unless you're supplementing magnesium or taking it in some other form, you're probably not getting enough magnesium in your body through nutrition. Therefore, sleep is one of the things that magnesium deficiency can affect. So about a year ago or 2 years ago, I started supplementing magnesium glycinate specifically. And just from taking that supplement, I noticed a big increase in not only quality of sleep, but how quick I could fall asleep and the quality of sleep through heart rate variability, all those measurable metrics through my Aura ring. Um, that I knew I was onto something. I was curious then, what else could I research and learn about and take that could also improve my sleep? So from that, I found L-theanine was another, more popular supplement, and it comes from an extract of green tea leaves primarily. That'll help calm you and fall asleep primarily. And then the other supplement I started taking was glycine, and that works with magnesium to enhance essentially the effects of the magnesium that you're supplementing as well. So I started taking these three supplements and realized, I feel like this is great, but I'm also opening three or two bottles and then mixing one powder every night. So I was, thinking, it would be great if there was just one thing I could take. And then from there, it's two less things I have to do each night. So I started looking at the market to see what was available. And there were products available, but what I noticed is they only had 1 or 2 of the ingredients, and a lot of times the dosaging wasn't, really effective. So, you either had to take, like, a triple or quad serving of what they were suggesting to get a proper dose, or it just didn't have all the ingredients. So, I decided, to put my entrepreneurial hat on and see what does it take to actually make a supplement. And about 6 months of research of finding manufacturers, how to make sure the supplement they're making is what you want it to be, making sure it tastes good, mixes well, for an end user, making sure that it's actually a good product, something that you would buy on store shelves. And yeah, after a couple months, I created Sleepy Vibes, and it's basically my supplement. It has primarily magnesium, L-theanine, and glycine, as well as some other ingredients that also aid in sleep that on a smaller scale. So I have zinc, chamomile extract, and then magnolia bark extract. And basically, you mix 2 scoops with a glass of water, primarily a couple hours before bed. And yeah, it provides all the benefits that taking all those supplements separately would give you. But it's one thing, and it also tastes really good, which was important to me as well.
I can only imagine the effort that went into creating the supplement. I know a couple colleagues who have some like Chinese herbal products, kind of
Hmm.
ingwer type things, and they are looking into making them into kind of a fizzy drink for like evening time and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I've just heard the stories of what it's required to make it tasty and something that people are going to want, and doing, all of your market research and all of these things. I'm sure that was quite the process.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot, and it requires a little bit of faith because at the end of the day, when you choose a manufacturer, you're hoping they say they're going to do what they say they're going to do. And yeah, luckily, it worked out for me. I have a great manufacturer, and I got the product third party tested myself just to cover my tracks to make sure that what they say is true. And luckily it was. So yeah, it took a lot of work, but it's something that once you have that system in place, it hopefully, um, helps you out in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up the third party testing because that was going to be one of my questions. And I tell people all the time, I have so many of my patients who are like, great, I'll just buy magnesium or calcium or whatever you're telling me to take at Costco. And this is not like a jab against Costco because some of their stuff actually tests well. But there was a test, I believe it was done in 2019 by Harvard, and they did all of the big supplement guys like Walgreens, and I think Walmart was on there, and
Hmm.
CVS maybe. And so if I'm getting a few of these wrong and you work for one of those companies, don't sue me. But um, they did a test, and let's say it was St. John's wort. It came back 90% of the time that there wasn't even a trace amount of St. John's wort in that supplement. And then the other 10% of the time, it had fillers in it, like corn or soy or gluten, that weren't labeled on the product. And those are allergen fillers. Like many people are allergic to these fillers. And so the study just found that kind of the supplement industry was just so corrupt and didn't have in it what they said they did. And so when I talk to people about the stuff that they're buying, like third party testing, if it's an over the counter type um, product, third party testing is what you want to see. You want to be able to go to the website and see that this has been third party tested. It does have in it what they say it does. It doesn't have extra garbage in it that they are lying to you about. And ultimately, if you're just buying, a bottle of corn filler that doesn't even have St. John's wort in it, you just have really expensive pee. And
Yeah.
it's pointless. It's not gonna give you any benefit and it could cause harm. And this whole industry is completely unregulated.
Hmm.
So anybody can slap a label on there and say it's magnesium and it's not. Like nobody's checking for this.
Yeah, it's I've been taking supplements, for 20 years, let's say, and that's always been a concern of mine. Um, just labels like not being truthful, and hopefully you pick some brands that you have trust in, but at the end of the day, if they're not saying it's third party tested or they haven't been around for a while, proving that they haven't had any lawsuits or anything like that, it is hard as a user to build that trust with a supplement.
Yeah. And I love so much of your story because it sounds like you're a bit of a biohacker, which is something that I've done for a long time. Like you showed me your Aura ring, I've got mine on. And I will say I've had almost the same experience. Actually, I got into so much of the biohacking that I do personally because of the bulletproof coffee.
Hmm.
I started drinking it when I was studying for my medical boards, and for 8 to 10 hour a day study sessions, it got my brain online, which was awesome. Um, and I've noticed, especially with the data from my Aura ring, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to go out and get this piece of technology. And, it costs a pretty penny to have it, but there's so many tools out there to track the metrics, like you said. And I noticed years ago that the same thing, I would have one glass of wine on a Friday or Saturday, and I would feel fine the next morning. No hangover, no headache, none of that. And my Aura ring would tell me that my sleep was horrible and my heart rate was super high late into the night and I barely got any deep sleep and all of these things. And it's the same with the meals. If I have the wrong meal or a meal too late, then I can see it impact my sleep, which when you really start kind of hacking your sleep the way that you've done, you notice that previously, you thought you felt fine the next morning, but when you start eliminating the alcohol, the late night meals, when you start adding in the proper supplementation to help you sleep, you actually feel exponentially better the next day, and then it shows up in your metric as well.
Mhm. Yeah. No, biohacking, as a term I used to use a lot, several years ago. But yeah, you're right. You start looking into one thing that leads to another thing. Next thing you know, yeah, you have an Aura ring on, you have a chili pad on your mattress. You're wearing um, blackout mask and all the whole 9 yards. But yeah, as you said, you start feeling better and the frequency of when you don't feel good goes to like next to nothing. Like certain things that you wouldn't necessarily be aware of right away, but as time goes on, you go, "Oh, I haven't been sick in 2 years. Like, is that a coincidence or is that, all this stuff working?" So it's things like that. And yeah, when it comes to the Aura Ring, I know, some people who don't like it. It's usually you have to change the way you handle the data. Like, if you go out drinking and it says you had the worst night of sleep ever, you shouldn't feel bad. You should just understand it's a data point and,
Mhm.
move on and accept it. So I do know when it comes to also biohacking, there is like a spectrum of where, if you drink water in a plastic bottle, you start freaking out. And it's also accepting what you can control and accepting that, you can't be perfect and, just trying to do your best.
Yeah, those are some really great points. There's a couple of them right there. Like, one, it's way more important to stay hydrated and less important about the vessel it came from. So if it came from
Yes.
plastic, but you are going to remain dehydrated, I would rather you be hydrated and drink out of plastic than avoid the plastic entirely.
Hmm.
And you're totally right. It's probably a person to person thing, a mindset thing. So all the technology we have, I know even like the Apple Watch will track your sleep. They have the Whoop strap. There's all sorts of different technologies out there with varying degrees of investment. But the data it gives you a choice. It has nothing to do with shaming you or making you feel bad that you went out and had a binge fest with your friends. That's okay. That's appropriate from time to time throughout our lives. But now, when you start to notice that pattern from the data you're getting back from the technology, hey, now I get to choose. Like, do I have a tough early workout tomorrow? Okay, so I don't want to drink tonight and make that workout even tougher. Or I have all day to sleep in and lounge around. So if I want to have a glass of wine or a couple of beers with the friends tonight, then I just get to make that empowered choice because now we have more information.
Mhm. Exactly. And yeah, that's how I live my life. I've never, even when I was, keto 7 days a week, I was still going out, socializing, making choices.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just understanding the choices you make and, maybe making some adjustments to limit the negative effects of those choices.
Absolutely. And there's so much out there. And so let's come back to the Sleepy Vibes product that you created. And you mentioned the magnesium glycinate. I was going to have you elaborate on like which type of magnesium, but you threw that in there already because not everybody knows that there are multiple forms and different types of magnesium. So citrate, succinate. There's one that starts with an L.
Malate,
Yeah, malate. All these.
L-theanine, yeah, there's
Yeah,
there's many forms.
and then glycinate, they impact different parts of the body, and so glycinate has been proven to be most effective at helping with sleep, and are you off the top of your head, do you know if it's one of those really easily absorbed forms? Because some are more easily absorbed than others.
Yeah, I believe in my research, because one, that was the supplement when I was just supplementing magnesium. I did, a quick biohacker search and everyone was pointing to glycinate as the best form when it comes to cost, bioavailability. So that's what I used and that's what I noticed an effect on.
Mhm.
I know some other forms are less absorbable, like I think citrate and malate They're found in maybe some of the products that I was looking at that are similar products. Not to say that they're not that they're bad products per se, but it's a cheaper form of magnesium, so they save costs, but your body won't absorb it quite as well. And then I actually think magnesium L-threonate is by far the most expensive form.
Mhm.
And I'm not the entire expert on why it's better, but I believe it's technically better for sleep, even though it's actually less elemental magnesium per serving. So one of the reasons I stayed away from it was one, because it was actually, I think, 10 times more expensive. And also, it was less magnesium. So, just from a marketing standpoint, I thought it would be hard to say, hey, you have to pay more money for less magnesium. And since I personally found success with magnesium glycinate, that was why I decided to choose it for sleepy vibes.
Gotcha. And so, did you play around with any other types of like sleep supplementation besides the L-theanine and the glycine, or was it really just
Yeah.
those 3?
So the one ingredient that we don't have in the product, which was a conscious choice, was melatonin.
Mhm.
So the main reason for that is, I'm sure everyone listening has taken melatonin at least one point in their life, and it's actually not something you want to take on daily. So if you're going on a red eye flight and you're not gonna, you need 6 hours of sleep, take a melatonin. It'll help you there. But if you're taking it 4, 5, 6 days in a row, it'll actually negatively impact your sleep because melatonin's a hormone and if your body's getting it by supplementation, it's not going to make it naturally. So then when you stop taking it, then it's harder to go to sleep.
Mhm.
So we consciously chose not to include it because we do want sleepy vibes to be something that you can take every day, and it's not habit forming, non-habit forming, and doesn't have any ingredients that would be create a negative effect for daily use.
Yes, I am so glad you brought that up because I think so many people do automatically turn to melatonin as the go-to for when you don't sleep well, and they don't seem to understand that, like you said, like, it's a hormone, and it's actually derived from serotonin. Like, our brains don't directly make melatonin, it has to make serotonin, and then it has to transform serotonin into melatonin. And just like any other hormone in the body, if you supplement it from the outside, the body is very lazy at a cellular level, so it will stop producing the hormone. So, like you said, if you're taking this melatonin on a regular basis, then the body will just say, hey, it's easy to get from the outside. I don't need to make this on my own. It's like asking somebody to retire. And then after 10 years of retirement, oh, we need you to go back to work again.
It, it's a good way to describe it. That's exactly how it is.
So, I'm curious if you were having sleep trouble when you started adding in this kind of trio of supplements to help with sleep, or if you were really just doing this as like, "Hey, I think I can do even better than what I do now."
Yeah, it was definitely more towards the I want to see if I could do even better. And I think that started from I never had really bad sleep issues per se, but with my Aura ring, I started noticing, the feedback and the metrics of certain lifestyle choices. And I think in the beginning of COVID, I was actually getting like the best sleep of my life just because I had no social life and, wasn't drinking for months on end. So I think I
Unlike other
felt
people, some people
yeah, no, I
are not
definitely
alcohol.
I went the other direction, especially in the beginning. So I think from that, I was feeling like perfect for months on end, which that never happened before because I do drink from time to time. I do have a cheat meal from time to time, and it does take. I guess what I learned from that is how many days it actually takes to truly get over and recover. The putting that type of stuff in your body and then, fast forward a year or two, more of my regular lifestyle. And I realized, not that my sleep was bad per se, but it was, oh, it's not like it was a year prior where, oh, I'm actually tired today, even though I slept technically for 7 hours. So that's when it was, okay, what can I do to improve this? And that's when, these, started listening to podcasts of people talking about certain things. I'm a hot sleeper, so getting a chili pad really helped me. But yeah, the supplementation really added that extra level, specifically the magnesium glycinate. I think that had the biggest effect for me.
Yes, the magnesium is definitely my go-to for sleep, and I'm a fan. I personally use, magnesium breakthrough product from,
Okay.
by Optimizers, and I like it because it has all the forms,
Hmm.
of magnesium except probably the L-threonate. I don't think that's in there, and you're right, it's
Hmm.
probably cost prohibitive issue.
Yeah, and I will say those blends are to save costs as well.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, and I
Well,
don't know if they list the, proportions of each form of magnesium or not.
I I believe the magnesium breakthrough they do. I've never really paid attention, but I believe
Mhm,
so. But I've always used that one for myself as well as recommended to patients, because it's like, hey, if it's gonna help your heart and your brain and your sleep and your Charlie horses at night and, all those things,
mhm.
like, let's not just like what you have created, like, let's put all the things into one place and not have to take 7 different bottles.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but I've learned so much in this conversation with you, so now I'm curious to go look at my bottle and see what the proportions are, or even if they list it. Um,
Yeah.
and so you said the magnesium glycinate is your favorite for the sleep. And so the L-theanine, w what did you notice? Have you ever taken these individually, I guess, is my question.
Yeah.
What are you noticing the differences when you were taking them as individual supplements?
Sure. So I took L-theanine maybe like 2 or 3 years ago at first, but it actually had nothing to do with sleep. It was more of for the nootropic effects.
Mhm.
And I believe for L-theanine, it was mostly the calming and the reduction of anxiety, so to speak. So I took it then. I did notice, an effect. I took like the dose that was on the bottle, so I think it was actually a smaller dose than what's in Sleepy Vibes. Um, but I knew it was helpful for calming you down. So then when I was making sleepy vibes, obviously one of the issues with people and sleep is falling asleep because they have a busy day, they're filled with anxiety, to calm their mind so they can actually go to sleep. So adding L-theanine and a dose that's actually effective, I thought was really important. So that way you drink sleepy vibes, you wind down, um, you know, watch TV, read a book, whatever you do, and hopefully you get calm so you can actually relax, which makes you go to sleep. So that's why I put L-theanine in there. And yeah, that was the one other one that I had taken individually, again, for a completely different purpose at first.
Yeah, I don't think I've really ever thought to use L-theanine for bedtime because I know it mostly for calming during the day. I know a lot of people will add L-theanine to their coffee in the morning because it takes that jitteriness away. Like
Hmm.
coffee allows you to wake up and get the benefits of the caffeine, but removes the jittery feeling that coffee tends to give versus like green tea. And I like I said, I've learned so much from you today because I didn't even know that the L-theanine was an extract from the green tea, which must explain why green tea, although very high in caffeine, has a lot less jitteriness than coffee does.
Hmm.
Must be that down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of taking it in the morning with coffee. I've personally never done it, just 'cause I guess I drink my coffee, like, slowly throughout the morning, so I don't really have the jitteriness problem, but, I have heard, yeah, that is another use case for L-theanine to take individually as well.
Well, awesome. So I'm curious, is there any other part of your story that needs to be told at this time before we begin to kind of wrap up?
Um, Trying to think, I guess, yeah, I mean, I started Sleepy Vibes, we started officially selling the product in July, and right now, yeah, it's just really trying to market it and spread the word,
Yeah.
because a lot of the competitors, they have big marketing budgets, and although their product maybe, um has the nice commercial or the influencers to market the product, the ingredients, if you look at the back of the label, which I always tell people, no matter what you're taking, get in the habit of reading the nutrition facts, the supplement facts, reading the other ingredients that are right below it, because that'll usually be revealing of other things they use. And just make sure that if you are taking something, for example, like magnesium glycinate, that it's an effective dose because, if you're taking something and it's giving you one third of the dose someone should take, the odds of you feeling an effect are probably small. And, although the placebo effect is real, if you are spending your hard-earned money on something, hopefully you want to get the actual effect from that ingredient.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where I bring it back to like buying your supplements at Costco or something, because oftentimes they're not effective. They might have junk in them. They might not have in it what they say they do. And
Mhm.
then you just end up with expensive peas. So why, like you said, like give away your hard earned money when it's not going to have any benefit?
Yeah, exactly. And, it's like you mentioned earlier, biohacking or trying to improve your health and longevity can get a little expensive, a little quicker than maybe one would hope. So when you do spend your money, you want to make sure you're spending it in the best way possible. And, Sleepy Vibes, it's really affordable for what you get, and it does have an effect. So, you don't have to necessarily wear an Aura ring as long as you're, good at like feeling how your body feels. But, like things like making sure your room is cool, making sure you're going to sleep in a dark environment, supplementing if you don't think you're getting enough magnesium, or if you have anxiety, or if it's hard to fall asleep, taking L-theanine. These are all things that will pay itself back in dividends to your health. And, it's even though Sleepy Vibes is there to help you fall asleep, it also will help you with your energy for the next day because, again, if you are getting good sleep, you won't feel groggy when you wake up. You won't hit the snooze button. If you're giving yourself 7, 8 hours, you'll wake up without an alarm clock and be able to tackle your day and whatever you have to accomplish.
Absolutely. All right. So, as we begin to wrap up, I do have a few final questions for you.
Sure.
So, the first two, well, they might be simple, they might not. But if you could text one tip to everyone on the planet on how to be well, what would it be?
Would say to get great sleep.
Not just promoting your Sleepy Vibes brand, but that really truly is an excellent tip, because if our sleep falls apart, kind of the whole rest of the day falls apart.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you don't have to necessarily take Sleepy Vibes, but as long as you're doing what you need to do to make sure you get great sleep, that's all that matters.
Awesome. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book, actually, you can kind of see it in the background. It's Atlas Shrugged by
Uh-huh.
Ayn Rand.
Yep, yep.
So yeah, it's right there.
Pretty popular.
Yeah,
Okay, so now I have a quick lightning round of questions. So I'm going to ask you four quick questions, and I just want you to quickly answer right off the top of your head what comes to mind first.
sure.
All right, ready?
hmm
What's your favorite food?
Steak.
What's your favorite exercise?
Deadlift.
What inspires you?
Progress.
Oh, awesome. And what's your biggest indulgence or guilty pleasure?
Probably dark chocolate.
Oh, nice. I laughed at your steak answer because, like, the last three guests I've had, including myself, I had a colleague interview me for the podcast
Sure.
recently, and the last few of us have mentioned steak.
Yeah. No, I'm a big steak eater, and yeah, can't get tired of it.
Yeah, it's a pretty perfect food.
Yeah. No, I agree.
All right, Joe, this was such an enlightening time. Like I said, I got to learn some things from you, which means the audience got to learn some great things from you today, too. So, before we hop off today, what is the best way for the audience to connect with you and find Sleepy Vibes?
Yeah, so Sleepy Vibes can be found on either we're actually recently on TikTok Shop, or you can go directly to our website, which is getbalanceddrink.com. And yeah, I did do create a discount code for your audience. So if you use the discount code Empire, you will get 15% off your entire order. So that's the best way to get Sleepy Vibes. And then yeah, I'm not super active on social media outside of Sleepy Vibes, so you could email myself personally at I'll give my email out for Sleepy Vibes, which is joe@getbalanceddrink.com. If you have any questions about the product or any type of questions for me, feel free to send away.
Amazing. Well, Joe, I will link all of that up in the show notes so people can find it there. And that is a very generous offer for you to offer that discount code. So I will put that in there as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Charlene.
All right. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Whether it's improving your internal, physical, or mental health, we have more tools to explore the infinite possibilities within wellness. Be sure to visit us at empirewellnesscenter.com for more ways to connect with Charlene. There you'll find ways to educate, improve, empower, inspire, and grow. That's all available on empirewellnesscenter.com.